India. Just one request so that we can hear each other very. Can you kindly put your microphones on mute unless you are speaking? So very warm welcome to the first India Antwerp Break Bulk Forum. I think the best part about going digital is that we can connect like this and bring people from different geographies together. And we are not talking about any two geographies today. We're talking about India and Antwerp when we are having a discussion on the topic of break bulk. I think these two geographies are very significant. India, for one, with its robust infrastructure developments and the need for project cargo movements on an ongoing basis, I think that in itself will keep the players on their toes around the clock. And I'm sure, most of the break bulk players who have joined in from India today will have that story to share, even in this crucial year. Antwerp is also a very significant geography as far as break bulk is concerned. I think globally renowned, world-class expertise, but just not the expertise. It's also the state-of-art equipment, the robust ecosystem, where I think Port of Antwerp is the front runner to provide that sort of. I think even as far as Port of Antwerp and break bulk is concerned, this is a very, very important segment for us. So important that we have actually given it an importance of having a commercial priority, which is break bulk. So naturally, we were very interested to reignite and refuel activity in this particular sector. And what better way to do it than get players like you on board to just have a discussion. So with that thought, this afternoon or morning for those who are in Antwerp, we will hear from some experts on how they fought out hard in 2020, some new learnings as well, and maybe through some visuals as to what new projects they did. I think before I give the floor to them, I would also like to introduce Andy Smith. Well, I don't think I should use the word introduce because many of you in India as well know Anne. Not to mention that I think everybody in Antwerp, as far as break bulk at least is concerned, knows Anne very well. And she was in India not so long ago in February when she spoke at Exim CTL BHP. I think many of you will also remember that. So on that high note, I know Anne is very passionate about break bulk and has superb connections in this space. And I hand it over to you. Please do share with us, about Port of Antwerp and break bulk and what 2021 has in store for the break bulk sector.
Thank you very much, Malini. Also from my part, of course, a very warm welcome to all our Antwerp and Indian friends, and to take the time to join us today and share their best practices and listen to the other ones. Especially for our Indian friends, because I've learned that there's an important cricket game going on for the moment, India against Australia. So we all support her for India and to make sure that India will win the game. I will share with you a couple of slides on how the sector is doing. Let's face it, looking back at this year, it hasn't been a great year, especially for the break bulk sector. When we look at split commodities in the Port of Antwerp, you can see the volumes going down for this year. The volumes on the left-hand side, you see the red bars. The red bars are the largest part of a break bulk cargo, which is steel. Steel, of course, has been hit especially hard, not only because of all the trade wars going on in the world, but also because of the automotive sector going down. At the end of the year, the non-containerized cargo volumes in the Port of Antwerp, meaning also the volumes of these commodities brought ro-ro-wise, will have gone down by about 20%. When you look at the right-hand side of the split of the cargo types, this is a image taken at the end of October, so year to date, end of October, then you can see the volumes going down by 23%. These are only conventional general cargo volumes, and we have made a calculation that by the end of the year, the downward spiral will be about 25%. But we are a little bit optimistic about 2021, so we look ahead at 2021 of being a more interesting year than this year. Taking out the cargo volumes which the Port of Antwerp has done with India, we can see the same trend going down by 20%. This means that steel also has been hit especially hard, but we can also see general cargo in the maritime traffic with India going down this year. So we hope that next year will be a better year in total. What have we learned from this year? That it is and it will remain a VUCA world. We call it like that because the sector is, of course, volatile. There's a lot of uncertainty going on. You can see we will listen to Ruxana later about SAL, but also other carriers are looking at what they will do next year. How can they help their clients? What will they need to change their service towards their clients? So it's a constant thing of being more agile and being close to your customer to adapt. What we have seen or what we have learned from the breakbulk industry in this time and day is that there's an urgent need for digitization. In the Port of Antwerp, digitization and innovation are a priority. So we have put some time and effort this year in developing a platform also for breakbulk cargo, and this is called bulk chain. So there are a lot of digital platforms for containers, but for breakbulk cargo, it's of course a little bit more difficult and needs a little bit more time to develop. Well, we had two stakeholders which have done a lot of testing this year, which are PSA Breakbulk, a terminal operator in the port, and of course ArcelorMittal, which have put on their cargo on the platform and tested. The platform has gone live and several APIs like the terminal delivery order, terminal delivery confirmation are live. So it's ready to use and to connect to their own software. The next stage is to onboard the other parties involved, like the agents in the port. And of course, we hope that all other terminals are following this example and that for maybe between this year and the next 2 years, the breakbulk cargo in the Port of Antwerp will be completely digitalized. If you want more information on this, Malini and I are at your disposal to give you more information. But today it's more important to give the floor to the speakers and their best practices to show you that the port is still operational. What lies ahead for 2021? Well, you know that the Port of Antwerp is a big supporter of Antwerp Excel. Last year, we had a very interesting first edition, and we were ready to make it a big success this year, also with the support of our Indian friends. But unfortunately, this pandemic has caused another worry for us. So being here in a digital world. We will see for the next edition, which is now set in March, if this can take place. We are already December, the virus is not gone yet. So we will have to wait and see if this edition will take place. Anyway, we will have an edition next year. We are not sure whether it can take place in March or maybe in September. But we hope meanwhile you will all subscribe to the newsletter, which is called XL Anchor, and you will being kept informed about the latest news on breakbulk industry. What we also have done this year, and I think you will have seen it, is launch our steel campaign. We have had a very successful September breakbulk month and a successful campaign. And I also would like to give a special thanks to our Indian friends, because a lot of people from India have viewed this campaign, have clicked on it, and were very interested. For next year, we will try to focus in our breakbulk team on project cargo and heavy lift, and hope we can make it an equally successful campaign as this year. As we have done enough talking as a port authority, I would like to thank you again for joining us, and I'm now giving the floor to Melanie to introduce the speakers of today with their very interesting stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And as you can see in the next slide, we have 6 very interesting speakers from either side, but we are very encouraged to hear from all of you. So let's see how we go with time. First will be 3 speakers from Antwerp. So we have Catherine, who's the MD of Fastlines, Mark Vanaken, the Chief Commercial Officer of Zaid Nasi, and Eric Bollard, the Director from Ucomar. Following that, we will have 3 speakers from India. So we have Pranab Jha, the Vice President from JSW Steel, Nailesh Gandhi, who's the owner and Director of Express Global Logistics, and Ruxana Vora, the Director of Sai Maritime and Management. And if I can request you to just minimize the, or maybe let's have full view of the, thank you. So without wasting much time, can I please call, and maybe ladies first, so maybe Catherine, could you please come forth and share your story with us?
Good afternoon, India. Good morning, Belgium. Good day, breakbulk lovers. I'm Catherine Scheers, and I want to thank Port of Antwerp for inviting me. Welcome in virtual Antwerp, the city of famous beer, chocolates, diamonds, but of course also the city of breakbulk. And as breakbulk fans, I do not have to explain to you that Antwerp is the home port of the largest breakbulk community and transshipment hub with over 200 calls of breakbulk vessels each month, even at low times. So Antwerp is also the hometown, but I'm a bit confused with my slides. Antwerp is also the hometown of Fastlines Belgium, the company of which I am the owner and proud ambassador. Fast is specialized in breakbulk with own breakbulk terminals in Ireland and Poland. And we have a fleet of short sea ships which can transship breakbulk cargoes arriving from all parts of the world in Antwerp to all corners of Europe. The majority of goods shipped on our coasters are to and from UK and Ireland. So needless to say that preparing for Brexit was on our 2020 to-do list. A leaked Brexit letter warns of 7,000 trucks queuing in Kent as of the 1st of January 2021. Imagine your cargo being blocked in this queue. So we started analyzing our customers' flows, and we concluded that breakbulk short sea shipping is part of the solution for Brexit. Our customer Wienerberger is already convinced that short sea breakbulk services are a great alternative to road freight. Since 2014, we ship full vessels of Wienerberger bricks on pallets from Antwerp into UK. And as you can see on the slide, the cargo is delivered almost at the customer's doorstep, and that in a sustainable way. After the 1st of January, we will continue serving customers with breakbulk shipments in or out UK just as before. The only difference will be that we have to fill out an extra customs document. But we also aspire to reroute the cargo flows of our customers shipping in or out of Ireland. Take example our customer Smith. Smith Building Products, located in Ireland, has for many years been importing various building products from continental Europe into Ireland and UK. Fast Group is covering door-to-door transport for all Smith building products. Long before Brexit, Fastlines invested in silo containers to ship them from Port of Antwerp directly to Port of Dublin. However, the majority of their cargo, bags of large crates on pallets, were shipped by truck via UK to Ireland. Due to the uncertainty of Brexit, Fast Group was looking for a solution to cut the UK land bridge, avoiding extra custom formalities and long traffic jams. And I'm proud to say that we found a solution. As from March 2020, we started with a new service, Bell Airlines. It is a conventional breakbulk liner service connecting Port of Antwerp to Port of Drogheda in Ireland. And we ship goods from an EU to an EU port. We aim for all types of breakbulk cargoes, cargoes currently trucked via UK land bridge, project cargo, and transshipment cargoes, for instance, from India. So we prepared for Brexit, but we didn't saw Corona coming. So how did Corona influence our new liner service into Ireland? Due to Corona, like Anne said, there is less break bulk cargoes, but nevertheless, we kept our service going and we operated monthly sailings, even if it meant sometimes taking extra part cargo and stop in ports on our way to Drogheda. If the side effects for COVID-19 are gone, we can easily step up the Bel Air service and put in extra ships and extra sailings. And even during Corona, FAST kept the wheels of economy turning. Business continued at our own offices, at our home offices, like I'm working today from home, on our terminals and on our ships, under strict Corona-proof protocols. And I'm very proud to say that even during Corona, FAST continued to do cruise changes on all its vessels, even if it meant to do sometimes a ballast voyage. So to conclude, another great thing about the breakbulk community is that we are an agile community, adapting swiftly even during pandemic. Thanks for your attention, and I'll pass the word on to Malini.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, we've got a lot to think about COVID, of course, but Brexit is the other big thing, and I'm sure a lot of Indian players as well are weary about that. So thank you very much for making a mention, and it was nice to see Catherine is very enthusiastic, although we've never met. She's very active on social media, and that's highly infectious. So thank you so much.
So we met through social media already,
Absolutely. But I'm looking forward to meet you in person next year, hopefully. So on that note, I move on to our next speaker who I have met, who's been in India as well, I think not so long ago. It must have been 2018. We traveled together to Pune. Mark from Zaid Nasi, over to you now.
Thank you, Malini. So also from my side, a warm welcome everyone in India and Antwerp. My name is Mark van Aken. I'm a CCO for Zuidnasi, more than 35 years active in the business. So needless to say that I saw a lot of changes in our industry. Not at least the containerization, but I have to admit I still love the job and I'm very enthusiastic about it. So Malini and Anne, thank you for letting me speak about breakbulk shipments. It's a subject which touches me and is very close to my heart. So today I would like to give you an update about the current situation at the breakbulk terminals during COVID and about cargo which is now ready to be shipped to the ports, to the Indian ports. For the participants who are not that familiar with Zuidnasi, I can tell you that you're one of the leading breakbulk terminals in Port of Antwerp. We're still family owned. And this year we are celebrating our 150th anniversary. Due to COVID, it's not possible to organize any event, but we still love to mention this. So we have a long tradition in breakbulk in our logistic. So Zuidnasi is the home terminal for many important multi-purpose shipping lines in Port of Antwerp. So I don't want to frighten you with this picture, but it's just to say that we are 100% fully operational. This picture was taken during the first lockdown. And the newspaper, local newspaper, Gazette van Antwerpen, was really curious if we still could work at the terminals. So they published this photo showing that everything is still okay. So we have taken preventive measures. This is necessary, of course, to create a safe environment for our people. Anne already mentioned it, but I have to admit, we lost a lot of volumes this year due to the COVID situation. If you look at the shipments and the liner services, there are a lot of possibilities in Port of Antwerp, of course. I will now focus on our terminal, and we have two regular breakbulk liners connecting Port of Antwerp and Indian ports. So we have Schiphol and AAL, main port Mumbai, but other ports are also possible like Kanda, Mundra, and a lot of charter vessels, other liner vessels, semi-liners are picking up cargoes in Port of Antwerp. I thought to myself, what can I bring as a positive contribution? So I went out this week and went to our terminal and took some pictures of cargo, which is now ready to be shipped to your ports. So we can talk about cargo, but this will only show that we are shipping the cargo as well. So first, we have some pictures about project cargo. As you can see, port of discharge Mumbai. We are talking about a heavy lift, more than 56 tons unit weight, being discharged on a Mafi trailer, and so it can be approached or brought to the sea vessel. So other project cargoes are also awaiting for the shipment. So as Anne already said, a lot of steel, which is ready to be shipped. We have the steel coils, you see rails, you see iron. And then also parcels, big parcels of steel awaiting, like this one for Port of Mundra. And we are talking about 20,000 tons of steel ready to be loaded on the vessels to India. So we see a lot of activity now towards India, which is really nice to see. Further, I would like to draw your attention to following important points for your breakbulk, for your export breakbulk shipments. So Port of Antwerp has very skilled and experienced labor, 24/7, really important. What we now see is that a lot of cargo is moved towards Port of Antwerp because we are still open during the holiday season. A lot of other ports are closing down or are giving not that much possibilities in these days. Also important is the 42 days free for export cargoes on the breakbulk terminal. If you bring your cargo to our terminal, it can be for consolidation, it can be for distribution. We have bonded warehouses, but we can grant you ample free storage time to bring your cargo and then afterwards ship it to the port of destination. A lot of global transshipment possibilities within the port, of course, even at the same terminal. We have the short sea connections, which FAST already mentioned to you, Catherine, but also other ones like DFDS are calling our terminals on a very regular basis. Added value, also really important, packaging of cargo, possible at the terminal, high lifting capacity with own cranes to give the best possible quality to your cargo. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. I do hope to see your cargo being shipped via the Port of Antwerp, and I'd love to give the floor to Mr. Erik Willaert from Ucomar. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Since Mark has already given the floor to Eric from Ucomar, I request you to please take over.
Okay.
Mark, you need to exit out of your presentation, please, so that we can see Eric.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Lovely.
Now mine should be coming up on the floor. Thank you both Anne and Malini for the introduction and the opportunity given to us to talk a little bit about Ucomar and also the Port of Antwerp and what all went on with the corona and the COVID-19 thing. For my Indian friends, a small introduction on Ucomar. We are a privately owned company, forwarding company in business since 1956. So not as old as Zuid-Natie, but at the end of the day, already respectable. Together with a small team of experienced, slightly elder people, forwarding specialists, we are handling a lot of transports, general cargoes, exceptional and project cargoes to and from Antwerp and other ports in the Benelux, from where these goods are being shipped to various nations, of course, also to India. Most of our clients, for whose account we are active, are other international-based forwarders. Some of them are in the audience. Okay, here's the next slide. When the first corona wave hit Europe end of March, we quickly changed our operation to a mixed office and home operation. Rather easy with all the modern technology that we have on hand, but anyway, also very challenging for all the participants. The most loud heard challenge within my office was for the people to keep an overview on files, documents, transports, orders given, and so on and so on. So likely there is, as Anne already mentioned, need for more digitalization and a better overview of everything. There in the past, we have been used to having paper files containing printouts of most important documents, everything centralized in the office. Now suddenly everything was spread out. It was at home, it was in the office. People had access to emails, but not to the paper printouts and so on and so on. It's a little bit more challenging than instead of being in the office with all the colleagues together. But of course, it was the same situation for everybody, for our clients, for the shipping agencies, transport partners, and so on and so on. Everybody tried to do his best to manage the situation. I would like to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about two specific shipments or projects we handled at the beginning of our COVID. Small technical issue. Oops. Okay. So sorry. Here I am with the right slide. So I want to talk you a little bit through two projects that we handled. The first one was at the beginning of the pandemic. Was a shipment of two dismantled excavators, small
Eric,
models. Yeah.
Sorry to stop you, but we don't see the slides. Are you sharing?
Yeah, should be. Hold on. I have my, okay, should be coming up now. Technical problem, sorry. Just before at the testing site, or the test moment, everything went well, and now we have a small problem.
Okay.
But let me continue a little bit on the history of the shipment. Possibly the slides will follow later. So the shipment concerned the transport of dismantled excavators from Germany, Düsseldorf, via the Port of Antwerp to Mumbai. Luckily, for one of the participants, Mark, he will see all the green warehouses and green cranes. It was handled at his terminal. And do you already see my slides?
Yes,
Yes,
now I
we
can
can
see
see
them.
it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you to my assistant. So whatever, I've lost my thread a little bit. So it's a smaller model of a Komatsu machine consisting not that much cargo, 275 tons, 500 cubic meters or freight tons per shipment with one heavy lift of 70 tons. The operation itself is not that difficult because it's a known route. There is a small pre-carriage with exceptional transports from the factory to the water-connected terminal in Düsseldorf, from where it comes by barge to Antwerp. In Antwerp, barge is discharged on the terminal, partially on Mafi trailers, partially simply first place of rest. And then the shipment is on a later stage loaded by Zuidnase onto, in this case, Schipperbrook vessels. So to be honest, there was a very limited impact of Corona on these shipments. We managed quite well. So we managed quite well with all the Corona measurements being in place. Point was that at that time, the access to the terminal was without any extra regulation. There was no limitation to go over and have an inspection on the cargoes, not on the terminal, not on the vessel. That's something that changed afterwards, or was also very depending on the terminals themselves. These pictures, you see the dates still, they are taken in May, the end of May. The second shipment came 1 month later, went over in the same kind of way. For us, the client, the shipper, the buyer, everything was a very successful story, so it wasn't that bad. Now I'm showing you some slides of a second shipment that we handled. Once again, on account of a German client, we arranged the pre-carriage, the FOB handling, stuffing into container, but also there was one big case, 46 tons, which was shipped break bulk on the container vessel. There we already had a little bit more difficulties due to the fact, and likely everybody can say the same, a lot of people are working from home and all the replies are getting in a little bit later than we are used to. For instance, in order to get the special road permits to move this piece, normally it takes you about 2 weeks. Now it was more than 4 weeks later, and it was only to carry the case 10 k's from the German supplier to the Dutch border. The real transport time for the truck to leave from supplier to the Port of Antwerp was something like 3 hours and a half, but only already on the waiting time to load the case, it took more than 6 hours. The truck arrived at the loading place on the foreseen time, 10 o'clock in the morning as agreed. There was need for a mobile crane, but that came in late. Once it came in, then people suddenly realized that they didn't have riggers installed. They had to come from outside, and by the end of the day, at around 4 o'clock, everything was loaded. So that was a little bit complicated. Upon arrival in the Port of Antwerp, in this case on the container terminal of Empet, it was for a shipment with an MSC vessel. Everything went much fluently. It was discharged within 30 minutes onto a Mafi trailer. The Mafi trailer is then parked somewhere at this giant terminal, awaiting the loading on board of the vessel. And that all went very smoothly. So the next order for the same supplier, for the same buyer, is already coming up and running. Is this the end of the troubled period? Hard to say. I don't think we are there yet. Hopefully, with all the vaccines people are talking about and promising that we will have our vaccines very soon, I hope that by the beginning of 2021, we can start recuperating from this pandemic. That's it for me. If somebody has questions, you can always raise them in the Q&A, or you can contact me afterwards on these links. Then I give the floor back to Malini and Anne.
Thanks, Eric. And I'm glad that Anne spotted that we couldn't see your presentation just in time, because those were two very nice, couple of very nice pictures that you showed, because we also advocate that we are a very good gateway for the German market as well, or cargo destined to Germany or coming from Germany. So I think you've, this is evidence that, we are a really truly good gateway for a cargo between India and Germany. So on that note, now I'd like to move on to the Indian contingent. And first, I would like to call upon Mr. Pranav Jha, who represents JSW. So I think he's a distinct character now, because we have a shipper on board. And the interesting thing is, I was reading about JSW. They are planning to make huge investments in the east of India, in this region of Orissa. I was also once reading about Sajjan Jindal, the chairman of Jindal Group, that he's always made acquisitions at a time when the market conditions have not been so, has paid off. So very excited to hear from Mr. Pranab Jha about, how 2020 was for the group personally for him, and, what does the future have in store. Mr. Jha, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Malini and Ann, for inviting me for this sort of a virtual get-together. I think just to give you the people perspective about JSW, JSW Steel is one of the largest steel manufacturers in India, and presently we have a installed capacity in excess of 18 million tons. Also, we have a number of plants based out in various states in India. There were about 2 to 3 acquisitions which we had over the last year, in one of which was in Europe and one in US. Those are 2 of the plants which we acquired in the last financial year. As Malini mentioned, actually JSW Group has been very aggressive as a strategy to expand, and our present capacity of 18 million would very soon be from the next financial year, which is about April onwards, would be about 24 million tons only in India. As far as the investment in eastern region of India, which Malini mentioned, we have a plan to actually set up a integrated steel plant in the state of Odisha, close to the port called Paradip. That's about the JSW Group and JSW Steel in particular. As far as we also, during the end of March, did have a very sort of a knee-jerk impact because of the corona lockdown here in India. Ours is a very big manufacturing setup with thousands of people working across the plants. So obviously we had a huge impact and a ripple effect because of the lockdown. But thankfully, we could actually pull up really fast. And in terms of, if you look at JSW's performance in the COVID time, which is actually March till date today. So, but for the month of April, which was almost like a transition month because there was a lockdown, and all of a sudden nothing was in terms prepared or templated. So we did have some of the plants reducing the production because we couldn't move raw materials because of the lockdowns in the or go slow in the ports and labor issues and railways issues, because in India railway rakes allocation was changed to carry mainly the food grains for the required states. So you did not have many rakes available for moving the raw materials. That was just a brief period, and we could actually, we take pride in saying that in fact during the corona times or the peak of the corona times, which is May, June and July, in fact as a group JSW we exported close to 4 times of our normal average monthly exports. So typically, for example, we usually export about 0.2 to 0.3 million tons every month. And during the months of June, July, we actually peaked at around almost 0.9 million tons. That actually we could, I would like to share some of the things. It was actually all by the fact that once you don't have many options, you try and push yourself to the limit. One of the challenges which we faced was actually the lockdown in India. So the demand actually within India went to almost zero. As a company, we wanted to run our plants and we wanted to run the plants at full capacity. To ensure that the plants run at the capacity, one of the challenges was to ensure that we continue to sell. The demand in India almost plummeted to zero. The only way for us to maintain the plants running was to look at exports as a segment. And given the logistical challenge, we could still actually on each of the months of June and July export in excess of 0.8 to 0.9 million tons monthly. That obviously was actually in the initial stages, the challenges which we faced was mainly to do with the documentation, because even like most of the companies, we also in our logistics were not seamless as far as the documentation is concerned. So most of the document flow actually typically still happens on the physical form. And the challenge was to move those documents across the various stakeholders and banking those documents. That was the biggest challenge in trying to achieve that sort of number. But we had some of the innovative stuff which we did is actually probably made a team which could sit in they were tested and they were quarantined in a place where only those bachelors could stay and process a document and shift it to the banks. So we could actually do it, and we in the bargain we learned a lot of things for us to be actually prepared for, I mean, any eventuality in case if it comes in future. That's something which we really learned. One of the things which we did, I'm sure other ports may have done. Our terminals actually during the peak of the pandemic, to meet the exports requirements, we in fact had certain stevedoring gang. So we made the full arrangement for them to stay there, have PPEs, continue to load out the vessels, do the aggressive testing. Even I mean, when the testing numbers in India was limited, we continued to test them every week to ensure that we are able to keep those flock of people or number of people within the ports only doing our activity and taking care of the quarantine issue, whether it's related to the vessel or the ports itself. So that was something which we really could successfully do it. In fact, even today in our offices or in our, we typically are doing random COVID testing to make sure, and aggressive testing to make sure that most of us are protected, because as you would know, most of the manufacturing setup, we have thousands and thousands, I mean, in excess of 15 to 20,000 people working at each of our major manufacturing setup. And currently, just to give you, it's almost operating at 100% of the capacity. So since May of 2020, we are almost at our full capacity in excess of 85-90% onwards. And the other aspect I would like to highlight is during I mean, I did hear some of the speakers from Antwerp Port, Antwerp mentioning, as far as JSW's volume to Antwerp is concerned, we haven't, I mean, there's not been a dip in that sense. And we in fact have done slightly more than the previous year for a corresponding period of April to September. And as far as future, I mean, I should also touch upon the brighter side. As far as the future is concerned, I think as a group, we have very aggressive plans, and my so finished products or the finished steel, which we call it the galvanized and the color coated, which is a typical volume which we are using or exporting out through Antwerp. We are going to be expanding from current 3 million tons to about 6 to 7 million tons. This is obviously due to a mixture of some acquisitions and some expansions in the current capacities. So that's very positive as far as our exports. So obviously to cater to the or to continue to operate with the 7 million ton of coated and finished product, we would continue to be very aggressive in our exports to Europe, as well as definitely using Antwerp could be a big channel. And just to actually also put across a food for thought for people out in Antwerp looking at increasing the volumes. One of the challenges I think every one of us now in India is as an exporter is facing is on account of containers and the availability of containers. That continues to be a challenge for me personally to meet the customers' demand. One of the ways to look at addressing that challenge is for the LSPs way in stationed or based out of Antwerp to look at some sort of a distribution model if they can work out, given the current cost context, to distribute in and around the Antwerp region. So shipments, for example, my shipments to Poland, my shipments to Sweden, my shipments to maybe Spain, Portugal, or UK continent could be actually done through break bulk and probably distributed last mile. Obviously, the biggest challenge there would be the cost aspects of double handling and probably meeting or in comparison to the container freights available. So it's always going to be a sort of a balancing between what's a container freights and the availability of containers vis-a-vis the cost on the other alternate mode of transportation, which is the break bulk consolidation and then distribution at the last mile. This is what I had my thoughts. So I would again like to thank Anne and Malini, and this is from a perspective from an exporter and a manufacturing setup. For us, logistics and ports and ship is one of the key sort of spokes in our achieving our targets year on year. So obviously it's a very important part to have logistics or the supply chain properly arranged and taking care of our requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. In fact, feeling very enthusiastic myself that you spoke about 2021 and more volumes. And I'm glad that you also put across your point, because we've had this discussion in the past. And now there are so many Antwerp companies who've joined. So I'm sure you'll find somebody who can possibly help you out. So guys in Antwerp, I think, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. It will be very nice to find a solution for a good company like JSW. Moving on to our next speaker, now I invite Mr. Nailesh Gandhi of Express Global Logistics. He's always cool as a cucumber. I know he's been very busy this year. As I said, India and Project Cargo, there's lots happening. But I'll let Mr. Gandhi take over and tell you himself what he's been up to in 2020.
Thank you, Malini. Thank you, Port of Antwerp. Port of Antwerp and Antwerp has been our first love for almost 15 years that we are using Port of Antwerp for project cargo, for transshipment, for consolidation. So thank you, Port of Antwerp, and thanks on behalf of all my customers who are using your port. Yes, 2020 has been a different year for everybody. We are no exceptions. We, as you know, we have two main verticals: hospitality and project logistics. And project logistics is our focused area. So yes, logistics we could bounce back to a great extent. Hospitality has been a bit of a challenge in the current environment. And to be very frank, initially April and May was a period where we were kind of firefighting what we should do. We got into micro analysis, we got into micromanagement, and then we realized that that's not the right way of managing the affairs, and we kind of moved on to really focusing on what we need to do in 2021. And that's where we switched off, looking at what we need to do today and tomorrow. That resulted into we finalized an acquisition in one of our business interests that we have. And that's going to be our area of focus for next year. And we've managed to take up some very challenging, extremely challenging projects for the coming 2 years. Some of them are the first for us or for the nation. So yes, we've kind of reignited in the month of June, July, and re-looked at how we are going to manage the current situation. Having said that, even currently we are managing to handle some good project cargo, not only in India but in the neighboring countries where we have our own offices. So yes, there are opportunities, and I think these opportunities. I mean, this COVID-19 has opened up new opportunities. If one has to look at how to encash on these opportunities. There are some companies who are available for consolidation. So we have to take that plunge. We have to invest in now. We have to invest not only in equipment, but we have to invest in good people because for various reasons, there is going to be growth. There's free money flow happening. The only way we can increase our employment, requirements by bringing in larger projects in the country. We have many projects coming up. We have the high-speed train, we have the coastal road, we have the Trans-Harbour Link, and plenty of refineries and so on and so forth. So yes, project logistics is, I think so, a very much interesting area for the next 5 years, at my personal opinion. What did we do for our people? I think that was the reason why I think we managed to bring a lot of change in the way we were running our business. And one good thing which for me personally happened in the month of May was I ended up speaking to every single employee of mine. And I actually had a target of talking to every employee of mine one-on-one and explain them the safety, explain them about how to manage their business affairs, office affairs, and the family together. Bring in they need to be positive about it. And I think that paid off very well for us because we created teams that were dealing with the short-term requirements of the COVID, and then some set of teams were started looking on the next 2 years and 3 years. So yes, there are different ways of dealing with such situations. We've taken up different, these kind of options of managing the business. Even today, we are working 100% from home. Most of the field people and the transport division, which have to be on the road. And the IT system has helped us in managing the affairs, sitting at home and still servicing the customers the way we should. I'll divert a little bit, but on the hospitality side, again, we changed the business model. We ended up giving one of our units to a large company for the entire COVID period so that they can use it for their. It's not a quarantine center, but it is for them to come and stay and move to their office so that, and we give them the highest level of standards of safety. And that's exactly what we adopted even for our transport vertical and our customs vertical. So there are different ways, Malini, and this is what we've done to fight this 2020. It's in a way it's a blank year, but I don't think it's a blank year because we have ended up doing new things for the group. The only the flip side is next year we celebrate our 75th year, and unfortunately that part of celebration is on hold for now. We can't celebrate it in the month of January, so let's see. But we will do something at least for our employees, if not for everyone. So yes, thank you, Malini. I mean, this is what I would like to share, that what we've done in the last few months. And I look forward for your support all the time again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's not believe him while he says that, it's a blank year. I know he's the type of person who's already making business plans for 2021. And I'm sure you'll have a great 2021. So moving on to our last speaker for today. Last but not the least, let me invite the lovely Ruxana Vora. She's the Director of Sai Shipping and Maritime. a very fierce lady in this field. And I think our brother Khalid Voraz also, I would like to acknowledge him as well. I think he's joined us as well. I think many of you know both Ruxana and Khalid Vora because they've had a very strong association with Antwerp. So when the Breakbulk show used to be in Antwerp, and I hope it will come back someday. I know Mr. Gandhi, many of you who have joined today were a part of the big Indian contingent. So over to you, Ruxana. Please do share your experience.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Malini, for inviting me to be part of this very important inaugural India Antwerp Breakbulk Forum. I'm truly honored, and I hope this is the beginning of many to come. Of course, next time, I hope over a hot cup of masala tea or even a Kingfisher beer. So let's hope for the best. Malini, I'm not fierce. Ask my clients, many of them are there in the forum. But yes, I do have a certain reputation. So COVID-19 has literally turned the entire world upside down. Actually, you never mind whether you're in India or Europe, it's affected everyone on this planet, and especially the breakbulk industry, because many projects have been affected due to non-arrival or late arrival rather of the cargoes that are required at site. And none of us, I mean, I remember meeting in February at the CTL BHP. All of us were there together. We were enjoying the nice beer hosted by Khalid. And who would have thought that just the next month, you know, we were all locked down. Never even heard of this phrase before. We had no experience of what to expect, how to deal with it. There was no past record or anyone to turn to that what do we do. Project cargo, as everyone knows, is of high value, high risk. There are many shareholders involved. Then you have your manufacturer at first, then your transporter, the carrier, and then again the transporter. So even a slightest delay in any where in that chain can have a totally domino effect on the project side. So where we had actually a very nice SAL vessel MV Maria, which was trading on the Indian coast when lockdown was announced in India on 21st March. She had already loaded part of the cargo from Dahej, that's on the west coast of India, and was sailing towards Mumbai to pick up the balance cargo. And suddenly everything came to a complete halt. We didn't know what to do. The easiest option would have been to say, okay, let's bypass Mumbai and go complete the voyage. But that would have meant a complete loss to the client, to the project side, and dead freight would have been involved. So we put our heads together, and thanks to Samir Parekh, who's also here in this forum of Lift and Shift India, he was the charter. He did not give up. And as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's what we did. We rolled up our sleeves, put our heads together, of course, remotely and digitally. We couldn't even meet. And we all put in our resources. And that was the time when I felt that we really have come so close together and worked together to get a favorable outcome. And we did. Of course, the vessel waited for a few days, and you know, heavy lift vessels cost a lot of money, especially the SAL ones. They're very expensive, but they were also very cooperative. We managed to get a good deal of detention discounted, and we waited for the cargo to arrive. Luckily, there was no curfew on the high seas, only on the roads. But that meant that no laborers, no shore gangs could even assist to roll the cargo onto the lift and shift barge. There was no one to even switch on the lights at the manufacturing unit. The cargo was ready. It was extremely frustrating. But putting in all our efforts, thanks to my operations team who risked life and limb and went onto the vessel at anchorage, thanks to the lift and shift team that also got caught by police on the roads, but still managed to make it and rolled on the cargo onto the barge and brought it to the vessel. the vessel loaded. We were all happy. We could finally sleep at night. And then she moved on to Haldia to discharge. That's on the east coast of India. Anyone who knows Haldia here knows it's really a tough port, one of the toughest ports in India. Not easy to work with. We landed there amongst cyclonic weather. Unfortunately, we had a little calamity on board. The second officer passed away due to a heart attack. But the laborers were so worried that it was COVID, they cut off the barge and went away with the cargo hanging midair. What do you do? How do you explain to these poor people who are risking their lives while working on the barge? Luckily, again, brought in all our heads together and convinced them and showed them the report that no, it was not COVID. So they came back and okay, we discharged that. So every day there was some hurdle that we had to cross, and literally we were pulling our hair out, but the end was near and we all had to stay there strong for each other. The next thing happened was the reconversion from coastal to foreign had to happen, and that was another challenge because there were no customs officers, there was nobody working, especially in East Coast. It was a bit lax in that area due to lockdown, but we managed somehow, and the voyage ended. This taught us a lot of lessons, of course. SAL, as you know, we are agents since 36 years in India. They put their full trust in us, and they gave us the liberty to act as required, and that really helped us. They supported us throughout, and that was a really good backing that we got from SAL. The next shipment, actually, we were in negotiations before lockdown, and I was all ready to have my first booking with Total Movements, which is a new company. They're a very dynamic young team, and it was my first booking with them, but lockdown was announced and all negotiations came to a standstill. There was 6 reactors to be loaded from Dahej to Antwerp, actually. And that was all the more, I was very happy that we were going to support the Port of Antwerp. It was for the Exxon refinery. But, factories were shut. Manufacturing came to a halt. So everything shut down. But luckily in April, the government allowed that 30% of the workforce could come back. But of course, again, laborers had fled the cities and gone to their hometowns. So manufacturers and shippers were at a loss. They had no laborers. Somehow, the manufacturer managed and started manufacturing the cargo again. And we restarted our negotiations and came to a very positive outcome with Total Movements for shipment in June. SAL vessel Frauke was the vessel that had to call, and she arrived a few days later because all the ports were still struggling with how do we deal with COVID? What are the new rules that have to come in? How is the crew to be tested? What are the quarantine regulations that have to be followed? So that was still in early stages, especially around the Indian and Arabian Gulf area. So there were some delays being experienced by vessels. However, Frauke came in, and Malini, may I request you to show the pictures? She loaded the 6 Scatophan reactors amidst a lot of swell. Actually, the swell in Dahej port is more scarier than COVID, if anyone is aware. So these were 6 reactors loaded for Exxon and booked by Total Movements. It went off seamlessly well considering the circumstances. Also, we had Cyclone Nizarg at that time hitting India, but considering everything, it went quite well. At that time, there was also a problem for people to enter ports. Adani ports, which controls Dahej port, were also very strict with PPE, etc., which is good. And they were very professional, and the port call went very smoothly. Beautiful cargo. We had a committed transit time of 35 days from Dahej to Antwerp, which was in true SAL style. Of course, we arrived on time. Despite 6 port calls en route, delayed Suez Canal crossing, like I said, at every port we were facing some delay or the other due to COVID, but somehow surmounted, and the vessel arrived on time and discharged very smoothly in Antwerp as always. I would like to quote here Helga Schroeder, who's the head of operations at SAL, says, it's always a pleasure to call at a well-organized port like Antwerp. Everything went well during the discharging and no hiccups. So the voyage ended well there. That was the 2 highlights I wanted to share with you all. One was at the beginning of lockdown, how we struggled, and then towards the middle where, okay, things got better. And today, as we stand, things are slowly resuming back to normal. Of course, we have our masks in place, social distancing, that is the norm. And I think it will be there, but we have to live with the situation. I see a lot of good inquiries coming in for 2021 for refinery cargo and oil and gas, which is a positive sign. Moody's, in fact, has forecasted India's growth, though we are in minus GDP right now, but Moody's has forecasted India's growth for the coming year as well to 8.6% from 8.1% earlier in their global outlook report. So we are slowly and surely on the road to recovery. We are seeing a lot of new inquiries coming in, also for port equipment moving along the coast as well. So I'm extremely positive. Yes, it is a long and bumpy road, but the bumps are getting smaller. And I have hope, because when I stand out at my apartment window and I see the ships sailing in and out of Nhava Sheva, I feel really, really positive. So as Catherine said, the break bulk industry is flexible, we are innovative, and we will never go out of style. We have our ships here, which are, in the area in India, calling now most Indian ports without any delays. So it's moving a lot more better. Also, I must say that due to the digitalization of even the Director General of Shipping and other customs portals, it was extremely easy at the time when we could not physically go and get a coastal license. This platform really helped us for seamless movement of our cargoes and our ships. So thank you very much, Anne and Malini, again for this opportunity. And and I look forward to seeing you all very soon in Antwerp or in Mumbai. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thought that was a very positive and high note to end our first, this inaugural India-Antwerp Forum. I'm afraid, we have overshot the time, but we promise that this is not going to be the first and last effort. We want to keep this going. And in the process, also make several other announcements connected to break bulk, starting with one next year and next month, actually. You would have seen, and this is more specifically for the Indian contingent who've joined, you know that we have a training school called APEC. And what we are trying to do now onwards is, and we're starting it with break bulk, organize very tailored courses in discussion with the Indian industry, and to be delivered by Antwerp companies. So you just heard from Mark Vanaken today from Zaid Nasi. So for example, he's going to be one of the speakers on that course. We'll share the details shortly, but do block your diaries. It's going to be sometime between the 11th to the 20th of January. On that note, I would really like to thank the speakers who participated and also the audience who joined us today. I was very engaged during this whole 1 hour to listen to your experiences, and I think many of you were so positive about business, and not once did I hear from somebody as to giving an excuse of COVID and not getting going. I know I had as well just when the lockdown started, and I said that okay, I'm working from home and it's so boring, and he said I've been in office, I don't work from home. And I can see, from that day, possibly it was April or something till now, I think everybody here is so passionate, whether we're working from home or from office. I think we'll keep our businesses going. But we promise to come back very soon with the second forum, and we'll hear from some new people. And possibly, I'll discuss it with Anne as well. If we can also have a social media site so that we don't have to wait for such forums, we can always keep talking and sharing. So on that note, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mallory. Thank you. Appreciate.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate.
Thank you,
you,
Malini.
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Important